Yeah, I agree with that. That's really amazing that you can still leave that impact on young race fans and race drivers as well, you know?
Yeah, it's fun. It's what I love doing. You know what? I mean, I've been very fortunate to have my entire adult career has been involved somehow, whether it's through teaching, performance driving schools, racing cars, working at a rally school. I was, like I say, with AMG for about 14 years as chief instructor. Before that, I did a Ferrari program where I was chief instructor, and so I've been around. And before that was a BMW program, so I've kind of been around doing all these driving programs, and we continue to do some at a lower level now. COVID really changed, the whole landscape of what's going on, and in some ways, for me, that was really good because it gave me the freedom to really pursue my racing again and kind of kickstart it again because I was busy working and wasn't focusing enough on racing. And then during COVID, it's like, well, I'm not working, so I might as well work out like 4 hours per day and drive race cars in between. And it was, really a great time.
Yeah. What are your hopes for the future?
In terms of
Racing and just coaching, teaching in general?
well, for me, I've made a commitment for this year to look after JMF Motorsports, which is the big Canadian team, which will likely turn into a multi-year deal. I see myself this year really managing. I'm the chief operation officer of that team, managing that and growing that team and trying to get some stability within the team from a staffing point of view, engineering, and also kind of where we want to be with the type of cars and how many cars. And we'll probably end up racing somewhere between 10 and 12 cars. And then the second year, I see myself trying to bring somebody up to start filling in and taking over my role and responsibility. So I see it as kind of a 2-year commitment now and trying to grow the team and prepare it so it's able to stand on its own without me holding its hand full time the way I'm doing now.
Got it. Have any final questions, Brendan?
What's your favorite car, like looking car? Like a car that you think looks amazing or beautiful, or
So many good looking cars out there. The funny thing, people usually ask me, what do you drive? And they assume that I'm going to drive a sports car, and the reality of it is I have a 1973 MGB,
nice, yeah.
which I drive part-time, but my daily driver is a Ram 3500 pickup truck.
Yes.
But from looks of cars, I mean, there's some cars that are, Porsche's got some beautiful cars out right now. Mercedes has got some gorgeous automobiles out there. The McLarens, there's some, just from a styling point of view, I think we've come such a long way. And for a while, I think cars were a little on the uglier side. And then they've, in the last 10 years, I find they've really, worked on design And there's even some of the more entry-level cars, the more common brands are building cars that are absolutely gorgeous that you go, wow, like, what? It's a Kia or, or whatever. There's some
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful cars out there. Some of the Honda products are fantastic. Yeah. It's a fun time if you're a car enthusiast. I mean, there was a time that, V8 engines were making like 200 horsepower and now 200 horsepower doesn't even doesn't even rank for a grocery getter anymore. Like you need,
Yeah.
300 horsepower for your grocery getter. So it's a good time to be an enthusiast, I think. And certainly with the transition to some of the electric stuff. Not saying I'm a big fan yet, but I've driven them and I try to drive whenever I rent a car, I try to drive I always rent different cars. Every place I go, I rent a car that I haven't driven. And sometimes they're electric cars. And, I got to say, some of them are pretty good. It's the charging that's a bit of a pain, but, the driving is
Yeah.
pretty good.
And
With
Mercedes makes some really nice cars now. Like, I love they have the classic styling, but it's still modern. It's sort of, they're really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they've really, for a long time, it was always like, oh, Mercedes, that's your grandpa's car, isn't it? And now they're like muscle cars. The AMG product lineup is fantastic.
Yeah, some of my favorites. Yeah.
You know what my favorite cars were if I had to pick all the three that I've seen in racing? I would say for one, it's Scott Borchetta's car in Nashville. And the other one that I would say I saw that was probably my favorite of all time was the #1 Nilla Wafers Nutter Butter car that Ron Fellows almost drove to victory at Watkins Glen for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated.
Yeah.
And then I would say the other one was Boris Said's number 60 Slurpee 711 No Fear Ford.
Yeah, that was a cool car. Certainly, and the whole Trans Am series was also a cool deal.
It definitely is. I actually met Scott Borchetta after that race in Nashville and got a picture with him. I was unaware of, the circumstances behind him and Taylor Swift. And my mother is a huge fan of Taylor Swift. And so when she saw me with that photo, in that photo with Scott Borchetta, she wanted to feel happy for me, but there was a part of her obviously that wasn't. But I have no regrets. I mean, obviously Taylor Swift has a different situation with Scott, but in my connection with him, he was very polite and friendly and even shook my hand and asked me, "Are you enjoying the race, young man?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's great." And he just said to me, "Good for you. I'm really happy I could put this on for you."
Yeah, there you go, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. It was fun, but yeah. Have you had any moments like that of meeting your hero?
Well, one of my heroes was always Ayrton Senna, so I certainly felt that when I first met him, and yeah, he's just I mean, in my opinion, there was nobody better than him, but I'm sure we could talk for 2 hours about who might have been or who could have been, but in his day, I don't think anyone could beat him, and it's a different day now. I mean, we got Lewis and we got Max and different eras, so hard to say.